Welcome to Southern Soul Chats, where real conversations meet faith-filled truth. This season, we're stepping into a special series called Faithfully Funded, where we talk about money through the lens of faith, trust, and relational equity. Because every dollar carries a story, and how we handle money shapes not only our finances, but our relationships and our walk with God. I'm Dr. Miranda Ferguson, and this season I'm joined by Matt Miller, author of Two Sides of Every Dollar. Together, we'll explore money not just as something to manage, but as a mirror, revealing what we value, who we trust, and how we love. So wherever you're listening from, lean in as we learn to live and give faithfully funded, one step at a time. Hey guys, welcome to Southern Soul Chats. We are so glad you've decided to join us today. Now, we are in our series called Faithfully Funded, and we're talking about relational equity. And so I have an amazing co-host for this whole season, Matt Miller. Thank you for co-hosting and holding that chair down.
Thank you for having me.
Another episode.
Thank you for a more comfortable chair.
I'm so glad you like it.
Yes.
I like it.
I dig it.
I dig it too. That's why we changed it. So I am Dr. Ferguson. I am your host. And this has been a fun season.
I'm glad.
For me.
I love what I get to do for a living, so I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, it's been good for lots of reasons. So lots of information. I know that a lot of people don't particularly find it fun to dig back and think back about different things. I do. I like to look back. I like to reflect. I like to make connections. Mm-hmm. And so, this whole season challenges our listeners and myself to go back and look at some of those foundational beginnings about money. And as God always does, He has been working in my life specifically through this, with some challenges for myself. You've given me some lovely extra credit, and we've given our audience some extra credit. So we hope you guys, if you've been following along, we hope that you have been working on some of that extra credit. We hope that God's revealing Himself through what you're hearing and what you're doing with your finances and even in your relationships, because as Matt says in his book, it's two sides to every dollar. And I'm not going to stop saying that because it's so good.
Good. I'm glad you like it.
So today we are going to jump in. Now, if you remember, we have the 5 uses of money. The last episode, I actually got it right.
You did?
So it's your turn.
Generosity.
We're not going to mess it up.
There we go. Generosity, saving, spending, debt, and taxes.
And today, what are we talking about?
Talking about the ring finger.
The dirty word of
debt.
Ugh. Ugh. That's how I feel about debt. So here's the thing. Many of God's people, many people, period, are living with burdens that God never intended. Mm-hmm. And I don't just mean financially. Mm-hmm. Because as you say in your book, which is another reason why I love it, is that just like spending, just like generosity, just like saving, it's not always about money. There are choices in our lives that sometimes put us in debt to all kind of things, which we'll get into later. But specifically in Proverbs 22:7, it says the borrower is the servant to the lender. And it's referring to debt as what we would say the word debt. Now, clearly there's a little more happening in there in the scripture, but it's a scripture I've thought a lot about through this series and something that God asked me years ago to do, which I'll share later. But I want to be intentional with who I'm serving and who I'm indebted to. Mm-hmm. And so that makes this conversation really fun today.
Good.
So, Matt, you describe debt not just as a financial tool, but something that affects our peace and our purpose. So what do most people misunderstand about debt?
Well, let's talk about both. Let's talk about, from a monetary perspective, there's the wealthy side and then there's the debt side. And what I like to remind everybody is that there are various forms of wealth and there are various forms of debt. And let's start with the wealth. So if you look at the wealth aspect, money is the most common topic. Savings, how much one's accumulated, number of houses, things of that nature, wealth. And I would submit that there are various forms of wealth. I like to think of my highest form of wealth as my relationship with Christ. Marriage, I think, is a wonderful gift. Health, children, in career, yes, our savings. So there are various forms of wealth. We get to live in a free nation. Let's not forget about that. That's a great thing. So all these various forms of wealth, and then I like to always remind everybody that whether it's the wealth and debt, each of these has beneficiaries. We being the first beneficiary, so I'm the first beneficiary of all these forms of wealth. Another one being wisdom or understanding that these are all various forms of wealth. And then the contingent beneficiaries or other beneficiaries of that are the circles then, whether it's a spouse or children or friends or clients of ours, whatever it may be. Those are other beneficiaries of the various forms of wealth that I have. And then we have as a team. And then if you look at debt, the most common conversation in regards to debt would then be your mortgage or your car loan or credit cards, things of that nature. But there are various forms of debt, much like there are various forms of wealth. And I think we spoke of this in the last episode. What breaks my heart is actually a form of debt, as I see it.
Right.
And someone who doesn't truly understand that they're valuable.
Yeah.
The inability to forgive, anger, all of these are various forms of debt. And much like debt on a mortgage or car loan or whatever it may be, credit cards in this particular case, I think is a better example, because I think all of these various forms of debt have very high forms of interest that is accruing in our mental, physical, emotional, spiritual health.
Yeah, and most people don't realize that. They hear the word interest or debt and interest, and they automatically think of what that credit card interest rate is or that current mortgage interest is. But we don't ever think about the interest internally.
That's accruing in us. And I it's going to come out one way or the other. And the thing that often is on the chopping block, first and foremost, anytime stress is introduced to a situation, is a relationship. A relationship is going to suffer because of that.
Yeah. So I was digging in the Bible and different other resources I was using, and across the board, it was agreed upon that like debt in the Bible isn't really condemned. It doesn't, there's not a verse that says, if ye have debt, ye are in big trouble. But there are many verses that discourage debt, like many. So I'll give you some examples. Romans 13:8, owe no one anything except love. I think that just needs a moment of silence. Proverbs 22:7, debt equals servanthood. Now, clearly, there's no equals in the scripture, but I'm just breaking it down for today's purposes. And then Deuteronomy 28:44, a borrower becomes tail, not the head. And after I read those three, I was just like, wow. Because a lot of people will say, the Bible's not relevant to today, or there's nothing in there. It's all old. No, I think those are all pretty current when I think about debt. Because when I'm the borrower, I'm depending on someone else. Recently, I've had the thought about the bank. I've never thought about this ever. I don't know where it came from. But I was thinking about the bank and how a mortgage. Let's go with a mortgage. And I've owned a few homes, and so I've had a few loans. And it's really exciting to get your first loan. You have your first house, and they approve you, and you're like, they're going to give me money?
Wow,
this
they
is
said
great.
Yes.
They said yes, and they say, sign here 30 years. And you're like, okay. Because I can afford that. In 30 years, it'll be mine. Now, when I was younger, I never really read the paperwork, right? So in my mind, I paid X for this house. In 30 years, done. I paid for it. It wasn't until in my later years in life, when the paperwork came down and I had to sign and flip all the pages, and I'm older, so I have a little more wisdom, a little more knowledge. And I get to the part where it shows all your payments and the interest. And I realized let's just use fun numbers like $300,000. That'll be fun. That if I buy a house for $300,000 and I have my monthly note, which I'm very comfortable, I can afford that. I've checked my budget. By the time I pay that house off in 30 years, I've paid for 2 houses because I borrowed their money. Mm-hmm. They did me a favor. But it never occurred to me that I was paying double for a house. That made me angry.
Yeah, that's why I reference in the book that the amortization schedule, which by the way is the word, I don't know why, but it's the word that trips me up the most. But that schedule, I sincerely say, use that word association. You should amor. I want you to amor, love your amortization schedule, understand what it's telling you.
It's telling me that I should not have borrowed money from the bank.
I think a lot of us are also steered, not wrongly. I think the intention is good, but we use a lot of terms or a certain vernacular in our culture that says, hey, this is your starter home. And so therefore, when you hear 30 years, they tell you, you're not going to live in this for 30 years. Don't even worry about that.
Yeah.
And I think it's for good intention. It's trying to help you get started. And first of all, I totally agree with you. Somebody said, yes, wow, that means I did something right. I got
credit.
I got credit.
Yeah.
I can pay this, et cetera, et cetera. And so we sign up. We do it. But you're exactly right. And yes, $300,000 in principal, and over a certain percentage for 30 years, you're going to pay $600,000.
Yeah.
Which again is you're in debt.
Is the price you paid to the lender.
That's right. And in certain interest rate environments, we were in one a few years or several years ago where interest rates for a 30-year mortgage were south of 3%, in the 2s. That is crazy. If we ever see that again, I don't know, but
I'd like to.
I mean, that would be. I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but if you're going to borrow money for a 30-year mortgage, you want it at 2%.
Yeah. You want to do it then because they're not going to get double your
By the way, the lenders
payment.
The lenders didn't like that either.
Well, that's because the lenders were losing money.
Well, they weren't making as much money.
Well, isn't that losing money?
Depends. They're still making a lot of money.
They are still making, yes, they are, but they're not making as much. They're not making $750,000 on $300,000. They just may be making like $500.
Well, they're not making their $300 on your $300. That's correct.
True. Oh, so I was looking at my different resources as well when I was looking at scripture, and the books I mentioned, they're always in the resources. So Managing God's Money, they say that debt reduces flexibility, that when you're in debt, you don't have the flexibility to do certain things. God and Money says that debt restricts generosity, that when you're indebted, like it says here, when you're indebted to someone else, then you can't have the freedom to do some things.
I would say you limit freedom. I wouldn't use the word can't.
That's good. Yes, limit freedom. You're right. That's better. Yeah. And then Money, Possessions, and Eternity says that long-term debt can actually become a form of idolatry. And I found all 3 of those to be not anything I've ever thought about when it came to debt.
In our culture, it's very easy to borrow money. And I've never lived abroad, but I have traveled abroad. And in other cultures, it's a lot more expensive to borrow, far more difficult.
Like, you mean the process or because of the rate? Like, what do you mean for people?
The cost, just the overall burden is far more cumbersome in different countries than ours. And I just simply say that, I say that to say that it is easier to borrow now than I guess ever in history. You can go, I think it's criminal that as a college student you get bombarded with credit card applications. I think that's criminal. I don't think that should ever exist. In regards to student loans, someone who's 18, 19 years old, who's going to college, is quite possibly going to get approved for what in theory is another person's mortgage amount, and they don't even have a job. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Yeah. So it's not that debt makes having debt doesn't make you sinful. It just makes you kind of stuck.
It can make you stuck. Yes, I know a number of people who have debt that are in very good spots. Because I think it's really important to remember that there are a lot of businesses. You know how much I like to equate business to the home line.
Yep.
There are a lot of very influential, very wealthy individuals, households. There are very well-run businesses and great businesses who know how to leverage debt. Instead of debt leveraging them, they are leveraging the lending institution, and that's often the difference. I'll use my life, for example. You don't have to tell me of the avoidance of credit cards. I use credit cards all the time. Mm-hmm. But I'm leveraging the system, not the system leveraging me.
You're not in debt to the credit card.
That's exactly right.
Right.
They're giving me points because I'm leveraging them.
Right.
I think it's very important that everybody remembers that I don't care how much you know the actor or the actress, I respect them too. That's not for you.
Right.
That institution is trying to entice you to use their product or their service for their benefit.
Yeah,
At
they're
the end of the
making
day,
money off you.
It's exactly
Right.
what they're striving to do.
Which puts them in the position, or let's say the driver's seat, to really be a big part of your future decisions, your time, your income, and even your peace. Because when you have a debt hanging over your head, it affects almost everything.
I don't know how much you watch television, and I don't really watch a whole lot of it, but I do have a subscription service, and you cannot watch an evening of fill in the blank,
right,
and not have a mortgage commercial, some type of cashback credit card commercial, or some type of whatever it may be, enticing you to borrow money.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think the one that sticks out in my head the most is Jennifer Gardner, because she has made one of those commercials, maybe Capital One, for like forever.
I wasn't going to use any names.
That's okay.
You go ahead.
It's okay. They don't mind. But Jennifer Gardner is she does it for Capital One. And that just shows you, though, it's to prove the point. I said it to prove the point, is that you said someone's name, out of all the ones that come on, hers sticks in my brain because, and I don't even watch a lot of TV, but I see her as a friendly face. She's welcoming. She does a lot of things in the community in which she lives in. She leverages a lot on her name that's just giving back. And credit card companies are smart. They play on that.
Oh, you think they're going to use somebody who's...
They should.
They're not going to use somebody who... I'm definitely not going to mention any names in this conversation, but they're not going to use somebody who's not trustworthy, who might be perceived as unattractive.
I mean, Jennifer Gardner has a cooking show, for Pete's sake, on social media. Like
they're going to use...
She's like, yes, give me her.
Sure, they're going to use somebody that is... And I'm sure she's a fantastic person. I would love to meet her. Of course they're going to use somebody who's...
Yeah. But seriously, I don't go through my day thinking about that kind of stuff. But the minute you said it, it triggered. It was a trigger.
But I do, only because I don't, but I notice these things simply because of what I do.
Right.
It's the same reason. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Tetris effect, but I can't walk down an aisle. You can't walk down an aisle in the grocery store and see something out of whack and not have to try to put it back into place, because I guess that's the thorn.
Yeah.
That's one of my thorns. I got a few of them.
Stuck with it.
And because I just like to see things orderly, and if I see it on the ground, it's obvious it fell out, just put it back.
Right.
The carts in the grocery store parking lot. See, I'm going off on
Here we
tangent,
go.
sorry.
Here we go. No,
Sorry,
but
everyone.
you brought up like credit cards and them, you leveraging the credit card. I don't think that's the mentality of most people. And I'll use me again in my 20s and I'd say early 30s. I got a better grip on it past that. But I looked at a credit card as someone else's money. I could get instant gratification. I can take this card. I know what the limit is, so it can't buy more than that. But whatever I want, doesn't matter. I'll pay my $12 a month. But $12 a month over lots of little credit cards like that, it adds up. And that was really my first lesson in interest. The house didn't get me. Isn't that funny? I've been a homeowner since I was 19. Mm-hmm. The house didn't get me. It was the credit cards that got me. And I can't tell you how many times in my 20s I had to do like consolidation of credit cards because here you go. Here you go. Here you go. And then before I knew it, 300 here added up really fast, 300 here. And then you add all those 300s up.
In theory, those services are intended to help someone.
Right.
We've all had our seasons.
Yes, we have.
We've talked about some of them.
Yeah.
We've all had our seasons. And so sometimes you got to go to the well. Something happened.
Yep.
What I dislike about these systems is that they know that there is a percentage, and that percentage is growing in popularity. They know there's a percentage of people who are going to not be able to pay it back.
Yep.
And they continue to be able to leverage that, and that is not healthy.
Yeah.
And that is then when it becomes more of a debt than just the monetary. Now someone can't sleep well at night. Now someone has angst or anxiety about how am I going to do all these things? How am I going to get myself out of this hole? And I think that's what it steals your purpose and your value.
Perfect timing as always, because I was going to say that you say, again, that debt is not always financial. There's emotional debt, there's relational debt, there's leadership debt.
Don't get me started on
We're going to get you started. So walk through each of those and what they look like in the form of debt. Because when I hear debt, before I started this with you, it was always money. It was just always money. Debt was money. Debt was bills. Debt was house. Debt was car. But since studying and reading and bringing debt like on a platform to really get under the microscope and look, it does change. You do understand debt comes in other ways.
You know what's crazy is that I recently started to wear this device here, and it tells me I have sleep debt or when I have sleep debt.
You wear it in your sleep. I can't wear a watch in my sleep.
It's not, yeah, and so
or whatever
thing
it is. I can't wear it.
No, it literally, it shows me this debt that I may or may not be accruing, or that I'm paying off by getting more sleep, and how that then in exchange for that exchange rate,
right,
I am healthier,
right,
and then in exchange for that, I might be actually physically younger than my actual age,
right.
And you can watch these things upward and to the right. That's what I wish more people understood. Just simply because you might be in a valley right here, I want you to zoom out and upward and to the right. Most of our lives are going upward into the right at some point, and then we have a circumstance, and yes, it's possible that you have a down or a dip. The markets are going to dip too. But in theory, what are we doing to then eliminate that to continue to go up to the right? So to those things you said, start with the first one again.
Emotional debt.
Emotional debt. The list is lengthy. I keep saying the inability to forgive. I was gifted with this. I was shown what anger was in my childhood, and it's not healthy. And so I had to figure that out. Pride is another thing that I was shown, not the healthy pride, the unhealthy pride.
The unhealthy, right.
These are all various forms of emotional debt that are extremely costly, and they accrue interest at very high rates. And that is going to come out in some way, shape, or form. So that's the emotional debt.
Relational debt.
Relational debt, some of that then goes or stems out of these. So I'll just speak to myself. pride and anger are one of the things that I had to figure out, and luckily with people and others that helped me understand that and unpack that. It helped me also see some of the damage that I was creating in my relationships. So it's not only a debt that I had, but it was a debt that I was creating in some of the relationships. Hence the reason we like the idea of relational equity. We want to, like the equity in our home continues to increase and we're decreasing debt.
Yep.
We would like for these conversations with our people that we value most and that we're with, we would like our equity to grow and eliminating as much debt as possible. And again, I'm going to come back. One of the biggest linchpins to that is communication.
Yep. And we have been talking about that a lot. Every chance we get, we're like, get it in there.
That's right.
And then here's the one you said not to get you started on.
Well,
I'm warning you.
No, yeah.
Warning. Leadership debt.
I think that there's a lot of conversations about leadership that are definitely prudent and helpful. I think there's just so much more that we could be doing as leaders of organizations, no matter the size of the organization. I'll remind everybody that no matter where you are leading in one shape or another. Doesn't mean just because you're a leader doesn't mean you're leading in a fantastic manner.
Right.
And again, I think there are so many things that are done in the workplace that if done better, that would then translate better in the home. And I'll just use a quick example. A lot of people don't like annual reviews. Well, one, because it's hard to receive constructive feedback. Yeah. Two, it's a skill set. In order to provide constructive feedback in a healthy manner, I mean, you know this, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but in order to provide constructive feedback in a healthy manner, the person that is providing that information should be learned in how to do so.
Right.
I would go even further upstream. If you're only doing that once a year, well, that's not very healthy in the first place.
Right.
Who wants to sit down for an hour once a year
and hear all the bad stuff from the year and some good stuff sprinkled in?
Yeah. do it more frequently. And so I think there are numerous ways that leaders and organizations could get better.
Yeah, I think in general we could all just do better.
Well, there's no doubt about that. But there's no doubt about that. But I just think that in some ways, somebody hearing that might feel that the upward hill is too much to climb. And although it could be steep, there is a way.
Yeah.
Because the visual that literally just came to mind when I said that is, if it's really steep like Everest, that doesn't mean you have to go this way.
That's good.
You could go this way.
Right.
Around it.
Yeah.
And you're still making progress to the top.
Oh, that's a really good illustration. So a minute ago, we talked about debt limiting freedom, or how it can limit freedom. From my own personal experience, especially over, just say, the last 3 years, because my life has changed significantly in the last 3 years. I feel like debt, if we're not talking about it monetarily, we're still coming off what you said, that debt can affect our callings because it does reduce flexibility. When God nudges and he says move or he says go, whether it's to serve, to give, to step into something new, whatever God's asking in a person's relationship with him, I believe debt becomes a barrier in that. I think it's easy to go, not yet, not now, I'm not ready. Or, I don't know if that'll work. Again, it doesn't have to be financially. It could be even time, that I have all my time so, just jammed up that God asked me to do something and I'm just like, well, I can't because I've already obligated here.
I would go to the thoughts, though, that I again, if you recall, I think there are 4 T's.
Yeah.
So it's time, talents, treasures, and thought life.
Yep.
And so if our thought life is so indebted to this negativity or whatever it may be, or our circles or what we listen to is a consistent negative aspect in life, then it is going to be very difficult to open our hearts or our minds, or from go like this to like this.
Yeah. Well, it's like decisions are made around payments and not purpose. So instead of making a decision on how does this further that or what's God's asking, it's I got to look and see all my different payments and what's due.
It's our culture, though. It's what it's how we
Driven?
grow up. Well, it's how we grow up.
Yeah.
We're told to let's stay in this category. We intentionally encourage our parents that we work with, the families that we work with, to help their high school or college students begin to accrue good credit.
Yeah.
Because we know what's coming next. And let's remember that credit is as it's building, all credit is a history of your behavior.
Right. Which affects your future spending.
But I think that's really important to remember. That's all a credit score is. It is a numerical number associated with your past behavior.
Oh my gosh, could you imagine if somebody assigned you a numerical number? Not with spending.
But according to your life or things, think of that.
That's what I mean. Could you imagine? I don't even know it.
You know what? We do. We already do that.
Oh.
We already do that.
Boy.
Because you can't get on any form of social media without someone judging someone else. And so that's all that is. And that's kind of what I'm saying is that.
But I'm saying, what if you were literally given a number, like that was a number? Because think about it, your number, right? It follows you, your Social Security number. It goes with you everywhere. When you want to make a financial purchase that's bigger, or you need that, or you want to get one of those nice little commercial credit cards, when you type in your identification number, that little 3-digit number pops up and goes with you. So I'm saying, like, what if you were going to meet somebody, friendship, relationship, and when you said your name, like that little number popped up? Could you imagine?
It'd be interesting.
My number would be a little better now, but if I would have had that number before, I feel like a lot of people have been like, nice to meet you. I think I'll just like lenders do. Thanks, but no thanks.
Right. Or actually what many of them do is they say you're not a paper, and so you're going to pay a higher interest.
Or you're going to have to make a deposit, and you can only spend that money until we deem you okay to give you our money.
Yeah, or you have to have something in exchange for the debt. So you have to put something up for that debt.
Yeah.
But again, think about that. All of that. We live in a culture, and I'm not speaking negatively of this nation. I'm just saying that it's a culture that we live in.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's super important to remember that this thing called debt, which is why I like it associated with the ring finger, because if we're not careful, then we're getting married to the wrong things.
I love that. The minute you told me that way back when, that being married to debt, like I was just like, that's powerful. I've just never thought about being married to debt.
Now think about that. Then what goes against? Go with the two values, the things that people value the most.
Right.
And then translate that down to the triple bottom line. I don't see a whole lot of people saying that I value debt.
I don't think I've ever met anybody who was like, I love debt. It's great.
But if you think about it, they may say whatever they say, okay? And then they somehow translate what that means to them in the form of accruing things. We've already talked about this in a previous episode. My dad didn't know. That's all he knew. And I don't judge him for that. He did the best that he could.
With what he had.
That's how he was shown love.
Right.
And
that's why we talk about what money being so important foundationally, because it carries over. It goes like that with your dad. It came into your life and you had to sort that out.
That's right.
And figure out for Matt Miller, what do I take? What do I leave? What am I struggling with?
Right. And so I think that's why it's super important to remember what it says, that once you're indebted to something, that you owe not only the payment back, but the interest. Yeah. And you signed up for it.
Yeah. Another thought again was that debt, we talked about generosity here. Debt definitely affects generosity. It shrinks the margin. We talked about margin before. In the book God and Money, they found that people with significant debt gave less, shocker, gave less, and were less generous because they were buried to debt. And that bill comes due every month.
What I also dislike about the thought of debt is that most of the things that we purchase depreciate in value. So that's a thing that just, it's astonishing to me. The only thing that let me think through this for a second. I'm going to continue to think while I talk. Not that I can do two things at once better than anybody else. I don't know.
Impressive multitasking
I
happening
actually
right
don't believe
here,
that.
folks.
I don't believe that we can at 100% multitask, but I'm going to talk through this. The thing known as a mortgage, we hope that it appreciates over time.
Right.
When we buy a vehicle.
Don't talk about it.
When we buy a boat.
It depreciates when you pull off the lot.
When you buy most things that we buy, they either depreciate the second you drive them or pull them off the lot, or they are gone within 24 hours. That's a thing that I really wish would permeate. It would just penetrate all these thoughts that we have. They're gone.
Yeah.
And you continue to pay interest on them.
Oh. Like I'm thinking this through in the moment.
I don't like losing money in anything, but that's the thing that I really wish people would value, because you can do the math.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The math's simple, but
and then again, like you said, it affects our peace. Even if you manage your payments, there's still a mental distress that you still owe it. It's still looming over your head. God forbid something happen and you could have used that money for something else. It's in a moment, a need that's like serious. Certainly I've seen it in counseling relationships, not just married relationships. It can just be a single person who in any relationship they have, it's hard. Conversations are heavier. Tensions rise really quick. You hit that trigger button and boy, Thanksgiving dinner turns into WWE right there. Decisions become lines in the sand. We talked about it before. Money is a big, let's say it this way and then we'll come back. Money is a big conflict in marriage, but it's not because of the two people that are broken. It's because of the pressure and the lack of the conversation. The lack of addressing this, like we said in the beginning. These are conversations you need to have before you're married and in the thick of it.
And ongoing.
Yes, because seasons change. People change.
Yeah.
Years in marriage, years in friendships, you evolve into what you would hope a more mature, healthier person. And with that comes new goals.
That's right.
Comes new thoughts, new processes. What I valued in my 20s, I no longer value in my 40s. That's, for me, that's healthy. That's a good...
It can be.
What did you say? It's a good trending line.
Upward and to the right.
Yes, that's good for me. I'm glad I'm
glad I'm not who I was in my 20s.
Me too, buddy. And I'm glad there's not a number for it either.
Yeah.
Because that would be really bad.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. What patterns do you see in people who feel stuck in debt?
No peace or lack of peace, I think. Lack of joy.
Do you see
regret,
fear? Do you see fear at all,
remorse.
like for the future?
I think it's some. I think that there are a lot of driven people.
Yeah.
That someone who's very driven might look at overcoming bankruptcy or debt differently than someone who can't dream.
Right.
I have a very dear friend that love him to death, and it broke my heart when I learned that he doesn't even dream. I couldn't even process that. That to me is debt.
Right.
And I don't want him to think badly, but imagine not having the gift of the imagination because of what maybe you're keeping in and you won't deal with.
Yeah. Again, it can reduce and take away your freedom. Because to me, there's a freedom in imagination. There's a freedom in thinking about the future. I know the Bible says that and these are Miranda's words, like we plan the future, but God like, ha ha ha, and he handles it. But it's to have the freedom to be like, okay, I can do this, or I could potentially do this, or what if this thing happened? It doesn't mean it's going to, or it's going to play out that way. But yeah, that would be a huge debt to feel so empty and so just wanting to avoid conversations like that, not being so overwhelmed and so heavily burdened that I only can barely survive in the moment I'm in.
Yeah, and I think that to pivot just a tad, I think that when you coming back to the debt aspect of it, when we're strapped with debt and we know that every dollar or the majority of our dollars that we earn are going to be spent before we even earn them,
right?
That's a difficult spot to be in, because what am I going to do now?
Yeah,
I can go get a second job, or I can do something differently, but that's a tough one.
I think if we're going to talk about being in that position and then saying, okay, then what's a path towards freedom, right? Here's the reality of some people's situations.
I would say first accepting it. I think it's healthy to accept what got us here.
Which means we have to be honest with ourselves.
And if we're married, then with someone else.
Right.
And be okay with the fact that that's going to come with some
consequences.
Yeah. And we don't like that word. But at the end of the day, I think it's only fair for someone to say, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Let's say somebody's blindsided by something.
Right.
No, it could be good or bad. Okay.
Yeah.
But I do think that to start to get out of that would be a healthy, hey, here's where I got myself here. And I with help from others, I'm gonna talk about that right now. What got you here? It is super important to remember that is others that are going to help you get out of that.
Oh, that's really important. Yeah.
To think that you can New Year's resolution yourself out of this is not a prudent or healthy thought. Yeah. I mean, I could argue that, well, then why didn't you just do that in the first place then if you knew how to do it,
right,
or avoid it? So it's okay to surround yourself with people who are going to love you through that and
taking, like I said, taking the ownership of it, like saying, you know what? Yes, I did this. It's not going to change. It doesn't change anything, but it's mine. And now what do I do with it?
And tell yourself you're sorry.
Yes, that is huge. It's
tell
okay.
the other person, and tell the other person.
I think honesty and ownership opens the door to accountability, because when you invite people in, it's not just you answering to yourself and then beating yourself up for it. It is, like you said, having those relationships that are going, okay, like, how'd you do this week? What steps are we at? Where are we at? But that was a hard step. Well, you can try again.
And I would also go back to, let's talk about generational wealth now, okay? So if married, having that conversation with your spouse, and then age-appropriate conversations, helping children understand what this really means. And then watch how you can parlay that or use that to pivot to other conversations. That's generational wealth.
Amen.
If you want to watch something carry on to your children and your grandchildren, help them understand that, hey, your mother and I, or my father and I made a mistake, and hey, we're gonna need do some changes around the house, whatever it may be, and help them understand the importance of that. That will go farther than any beneficiary of an IRA.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I think patience. I think you have to have patience. A lot of times, because we live in this instant gratification, right? So you can DoorDash, you can Amazon, at any time of the day or night, you can pretty much have what you want when you want. Mm-hmm. Like, that's just the world we live in now.
Yep.
But what you cannot do is fix something you've done in that span of time. you cannot expect that today I met with Matt Miller as a friend. He talked to me, he coached me, and then tomorrow it's all going to be okay.
Yeah, we're not living in the Matrix.
No. It takes time. It took you time to get here, and it's probably going to take double the time to get out.
And it's going to take time for you to forgive yourself. It's also going to take time for others that are hurt through this to forgive you, or maybe they did forgive you right away, but it's going to take some time for them to build that trust cup back up.
Yep.
And hey, okay.
Yeah.
You did this, but it's okay. I think that's that whole judgment thing. This topic of money comes with the judgment stigma that is really difficult to overcome for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But again, go back to your earliest thoughts of money, or go back to the things that you value most and how maybe your behaviors haven't then supported what you value most. And now you're judging yourself. And it's just this tailspin. Yeah. When in fact, you can pull on that yoke and you can come out of that and at least get off the Ferris wheel or the Carousel wheel and take a break, take a breather.
Yeah.
And recognize that. And then beyond that, there's got to be some type of plan. Because if we have various cards or whatever it is.
Well, and clearly what you were doing wasn't working. So we need a new plan. That's
right. Or maybe it wasn't working because what oftentimes overspending is it's identity or some type of,
right.
I'm not good enough. And
we're filling the void. I feel like a lot of that's filling the void.
I would agree with that. And what I would just simply say, hey, if they like you, because of what you're driving or what you're spending, you're in the wrong circle in the first place. They don't like you then.
It's not about you.
It's not about you. It's about them.
Yeah.
And so that's that whole, your 5 closest friends conversation.
Yeah.
It's a different conversation. But I like the idea of then having a plan and then having an understanding that this is going to take time. You just said that.
Yep.
You can't get out of this hole overnight.
Nope.
Maybe you're fortunate enough to have somebody who will provide for that, and you got a clean slate right away.
I never met that person. I'd always had to pay the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I did the crime, I had to pay the time.
Yeah.
And I had to sit in and be uncomfortable. I had to be patient. I had to be consistent with working on that debt, whether it was financially or relationally. And then ultimately what I found, which circles back to everything in my book, is I had to surrender my finances to God. I had to be like, I like to believe this is mine. I like to believe that all this is about me and this whole world just rotates around my ever desire and want and need. It's all about me, but it's not.
Mm-mm.
I had to realize that everything I have, everything I own, really it's on loan. And we talked about that. We talked about that a couple episodes back, that God is the owner and I'm the manager.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like in your line of business, people come to you with their finances and they say, hey, I'm inviting you into this conversation. I'm still the owner. That still belongs to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm expecting you to help me manage it well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what God does with our finances. He's the owner. Like you said, we have the storehouses, we have the cattle, it's all his. It says it repeatedly through the Bible. Everything belongs to him. But he's so gracious to loan it to us to do the works for his kingdom and his people.
Well, we talked about that with the parable of the talents too.
Yep.
And I love the fact that he still gave that one bag of talents to
Knowing.
He
knew.
Yeah.
He so knew.
So that kind of goes back to the score thing that we talked about.
Yeah.
I've been the 1, the 2, and the 5
Mm-hmm.
in that story. And maybe more often the 1. And yet he's still gracious. And that's what I wish more people, believers or unbelievers, would just, he's not with a gavel just waiting to tell you, you got to pay your time.
Yeah.
He's just not.
And in this moment when you just said that, it made me think it's quite the opposite.
It is quite the opposite.
He took his son and took mine and yours and all of yours biggest debt and nailed it to a cross and said, done and finished.
Yeah, and think of the wayward son that, and I'm maybe not guilty to what was described in that story, but I'm just
We've all been wayward at some point.
Yeah. No, I meant.
Yeah, it wasn't quite.
It wasn't that lifestyle,
right?
But and the son chose to come back, and his father saw him from a distance, and I can only imagine what that felt like.
Yeah,
and just started.
Got the staff together.
I gotta go get this. I gotta get this,
Yeah.
and ran to him, and that's who our God is. He's not the other.
Yeah, I am so thankful for that. Because, like I said, if I had that number, not the number that is for my credit, but if the number was for what I would represent as a person and be, if it had to be tattooed on my hand, and if clearly it would need to be changed at some point, but oh my gosh, it wouldn't equal worthy. You know what I mean? Like it would. I don't know that any number would ever really be a sufficient number for the way Christ loves me and what God has done in my life. Like my number would never, ever be sufficient enough. No. Never. But yet he still walks with me. He still talks with me when I mess up, just like a good parent. All right, there's going to be some consequences because you made this mess, but I'm going to still walk with you through it. I'm still here. I'm still giving you hope for the future. That is not a God who's trying to gavel you and beat you down. It's a God who says, you had free will, you made some bad choices, but we can still get on the path. It's never too late.
Yeah. And I can't speak for everyone, but I did speak of my relationship with my father. I think for many of us, we equate a heavenly, ineffable. I read that word twice this week.
Impressed.
Twice.
You gave us that word.
2 different books.
You introduced that word to us a few episodes back. Go back and listen.
Yeah. And we think that the people that are around us can somehow or some way even come close to his glory and his greatness. And that's what that ineffable means. It's not possible. We can't. Yeah, no. We can't possibly understand how great he is. But back to the debt, I think that's why it's spoken of.
Yeah.
Because it will rob us.
Yep.
And I think it's very important to remember who is trying to rob us of joy.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the thing about debt is it will hamstring us in one way, shape, or form. You earlier used the word flexibility, and you were talking about we want to stay nimble and our I was thinking an athletic position.
Right.
And
ready to move.
We need to be ready to move because action is you're doing something.
Yep.
And I think about that. So you think about the athlete. The athlete, because of strength and agility and flexibility, the athlete is able to move. But anytime that athlete is injured in one way, shape, or another, knee injury, it's really hard for them to get back to the place where they're going to trust that knee again, like they did before it was injured.
Yeah.
And debt can do the same thing. It can really begin to make ourselves doubt ourselves and what we're capable of and our worth and things, especially as it continues to accumulate. And that's the danger of it.
Yeah, and our value. And there's nothing Satan wants more is to tell you that your worth and value is found in 500 other things than Christ, that it's no good, you are rotten and dirty, and that you have no place in the kingdom of God. He would never want something like you. Like that his method has never changed. That has always been it. And so I think, when we look at debt, either from this side of the dollar or that side of the dollar, we have to see that it is a place we want to steer clear of, if we can, if we're able. And I think if we understand debt better than just being my checkbook is negative, then we have a greater chance at combating Satan and the lies and the things he uses against us.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to remember that we're all built differently like that.
Right.
So you have the left brain, you have the right brain, you have the type A person, you have the people who have experience, the people who don't have experience. You have all these different facets for all of us. And what I'm simply saying is that there are some that the spreadsheets work and there are some that the spreadsheets scare. You have some that will confront their issues and some that will never confront their issues. And all of these factors and all these variables come to play for everybody who's listening to this, or everybody who has ever been confronted with trying to get out of debt or avoid debt. I'll insert something that should be a goal for everybody. How about never pay a dime in interest for anything that you're borrowing on a credit card? Why not make that a cultural goal?
Yeah.
That will
I don't know that people think that's even possible. Like they're like, there's a lot of people that just went, excuse me, what?
Well, then let's change the script then.
Okay, let me tell you a story real quick. I'm gonna make it really quick. I'm so glad you said this. I wasn't even gonna share this, but I will now. So we've been in Texas 8 years prior to knowing that Texas was even going to exist. So let's say 2 years back. So let's just go with 10, okay? 10 years ago, there were some things just financially with Jeremy and I, we were married, that we were trying to work through and figure out. Because, when you get married, you bring things with you, like baggage and such and stuff. All kind of stuff's packed in that baggage. And so we were really trying to figure out how to, how can we take care of this and not get pinned with more money? And so I was just like, gosh, I don't, just like what I just said, people are going, really, how can you do that? How can you do that? It's just not even possible. Jeremy needed to work on some stuff. I needed to work on some stuff. We were thinking about buying a different home, and we needed to address all kinds of things. So there was just like this huge table of puzzle pieces, but we were still stuck at the place of how do we get out of this situation right here? And out of nowhere, I say that, but I'll come back and fix it. Out of nowhere, I had a thought. I know now, and I knew shortly after that, just the grace of God, I had a thought about, oh, wait a minute. We have like a good credit score, but we have this debt. I bet you I could apply for a 0 interest credit card for 18 months, 24 months, whatever the special is, and roll this money over to the card and then pay it interest free. So all of my money is going to my principal. And I bet you I could pay stuff off a lot faster. I never thought about that. Seriously, Matt, nowhere in my mind had that thought. Nobody told me that. Nobody told me that. This just popped into my head, and I was like, okay. So I started researching it. Got on one of those little apps that tells you here's all the credit cards, and here's based on you, and blah, blah, blah. And so I did. And we continued to roll money over years until we paid all of that debt off and did not pay $1 of interest. Mm-hmm. Not a penny. Everything that I had to pay, which was very close to what I was paying to all this stuff over here, not a dime.
And that's what I was speaking of in the previous episode, that you're leveraging the system because their betting odds are stating that you're going to miss, and then therefore you're going to owe interest. It's the same reason. I'm just talking out loud. It's the same reason why if you buy things for your home, such as something that you're sitting on, that you're going to have a 0% interest for 3 years.
Yeah, and they're banking that you're not going to pay it off in 3 years.
That's right. And we all know this.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
In an episode down the road, we're going to talk about wisdom and understanding and application. Yep. So it's okay. Well, then leverage it. But where we get in trouble is we did that, and now we're going to leverage it again. Oh, and then I saw something else that I want to leverage.
Right.
Oh, and then I saw something. And now I've got all of this, okay? 4, 5, 6 loans.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, if something happens, then I have no margin.
Right.
And something's going to happen.
It always does.
It
always does.
And that's the thing that I wish that we would, and I say we, I only reason I can talk about this is because I have lived it. I have experienced it.
Yep, same here.
And so What I wish more people understood is that if you're buying all these things so that you can be more liked, or that you could be perceived as making more money, or you can fill in the blank.
Yeah.
There is a healthier way to think about it than that.
Yeah. And so for us, when our goal was to pay that off, and we had a plan together that was, until this is done, we don't accumulate anything else. Emergencies come. I'm talking about stuff, whatever the stuff was. And then when we were hopeful, right? Like that we could see the end. If we do this process and we keep doing it, we will see the end. But I believe, for me personally, God made it so uncomfortably and the taste so bad in my mouth that I was having to do this and to be mindful and to put it, that it was like, never again. I will only use a credit card if I am leveraging it to my good. Like you said, I use a credit card once a month. I use a credit card a month. I pay it off, and I make sure that I use it for bigger purchases so that I get these credits, because sometimes I do like to use them as miles on an airplane, because then I don't have to pay for it.
So be it.
But that was my money anyway.
Yeah.
And so I started learning that, and nobody taught that to me. I really feel like I was so thankful because God planted that in my head, which what I didn't know is when we came to Houston, we had a situation come into Houston. It's on our podcast, go way back to the beginning. We had to get into a financial situation. Like, we didn't have a choice because of all kind of things. And I remember thinking, like, Lord, what is this? How do you bring us out to take us back in? And it was a substantial amount of money, and I could not see it. It was just one of those things where I couldn't even see the end of it. And I thought, all that for nothing. Like, what was this? And I remembered it. And so we started doing that again. We just started doing whatever. But God, in that season, put on my heart for us to be out of debt. And I kind of laughed it off. I told you before we started that Jeremy has the mindset of like, just pay it. You don't have to be in debt your whole life. And I'm like, yes, you do. You're always going to owe for a house. You're always going to owe for a car. And you got to get a car every 3 years, right? Every 4 years. He's like, what? No, you don't have to do that. You can pay it off. But in that season, the taste was so bad.
Bitter.
So bitter. I can taste it. Like, I can taste it right now. That when God said, I want you to be out of debt, I thought, there's no way. There's absolutely no way with what we just went through. But there was. And God provided. And when we anchored down to it, He began to bring ideas, bring people, and we started managing God's money better. And we were able to get to the point where we paid that off. And then we took that money and rolled it into something else, paid that off, with the goal of being like, holy crap, there is freedom in being out from under debt. I already knew that in a personal, I felt that with a whole different taste in my mouth from my 20s and 30s. But financially, I was like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, and what I like about that, number one, that's your story, but there's a lot of joy and there's a great reward in these conversations.
Yeah.
It's a word of encouragement that I would give to everybody.
Yeah.
As you're coming to this conclusion, let's go back to the infancy stage. You said you're sorry to yourself. You had a good cry over it. It's important to understand that there's going to be a reward. I love the idea of knowing what's your reward system. We talk about the love languages. What's your love languages? Know these things about yourself so that when you meet these mile markers, you see something and you do something about it. Reward yourself for that. Make progress towards something, and then you keep going.
Yeah.
And you benefit from that. That's what helps a lot of people get through these things.
Yeah.
That are very difficult.
And I can't tell you how many friends I've had the privilege to sit down and them being like, I'm so tired of this debt, and me being like, let me share with you what God put on my heart to do. Let's look. If you trust me enough, like, let's look and see if this may work for you. Like, and how serious are you about it? And, how committed? Because what I know happens is that they get that same taste, that same bitter, yucky taste. And then when they get the sweet taste of freedom from past debt in relationships or past debt in finances, that you typically don't want to go back.
No, and then that's the importance of understanding these.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because as the debt begins to decrease, then you have the opportunity to invest.
Yep.
You go the opposite direction. You have the opportunity to be generous. You have the opportunity to spend money on your family that is uniquely different than the past.
Yep.
It's just a very rewarding area to be in.
It does open the door to a lot of new spaces and places and a very intimate relationship with Christ when he's in the middle of your finances and he's steering and driving and the Holy Spirit speaking to you. It's a pretty cool place to be. All right. Well, as we wrap up, number one, I think it's most important that we remind people that Jesus canceled your greatest debt, which was sin. Did it. And because of that, you can pursue freedom without shame, no matter what that is. Like, that is the biggest gift that has ever been given to us. And I am so thankful for that. Like Colossians 2:14 says, debt was nailed to the cross.
Mm-hmm.
My debt, your debt.
Once and for all.
Once and for all. So with thinking of that in mind and thinking of what you do for a living in mind, what encouragement would you offer to somebody right now who's sitting in this going, I feel so ashamed. I'm so overwhelmed. I don't know what to do because of my resources. It sounds great. Y'all get help. I don't know. I can't get help. I can't afford help. I don't even know if the people in my circle are good to give me help. Like, for somebody who just feels really hopeless in this moment, what do you tell them to do for the next step?
The first thing I would say is know that you are loved. You are loved by the one who gives all things.
Yep.
Beyond that, every home, every person's story or every person's journey is going to be uniquely different. But I go back to what we've already talked about. You're there. And of course we're talking, let's pause for a moment. You have more experience in this than I do. But we're not talking about difficult scenarios that need professional counseling.
Right, no.
So
we're not.
Can we put that asterisk out there?
Yes.
Okay, so we're talking about this in the middle here. Accept the fact that we talk about it all the time. Nobody's perfect.
Nope.
Well, then be comfortable with telling yourself, hey, I'm sorry, I messed up. And accept the fact that you're not perfect either.
Yep.
I think those are very healthy steps. I think getting a good night's sleep and walking through that and having a vigor about you to get through this is important.
Yeah.
Your support team is super important. And if you don't have one, I do think that there are people out there and there are organizations out there that can help, and the willingness to call is difficult at times, but there are many people and there are many organizations that can help with that.
Absolutely.
I do know that there are going to be some people that are closest to you that you think they're going to help and they're not.
Yep.
Just be ready for that. And you might be surprised that there are going to be some people who it's just the opposite. The ones that you thought there's no way that's going to happen. And then they have some intentionality built within them. And all of a sudden it happens because that's, as I said, that's God's LinkedIn account. The biggest LinkedIn account there is.
I love his LinkedIn account.
and that we hear stories about that often.
Yeah, we do.
I guess I feel a little, I'm going to say this, and I hope that it's received well. Blaming others for stuff we have done isn't going to get you anywhere.
No.
And it I guess in a way it's a form of debt, but that's not going to help you. So accepting that it is a mistake that has been made, and it doesn't have to be debt only either, by the way. This could be talking about other things.
Sure could be.
And that would be the first steps. I mean, beyond that, without any specifics, I can't really, but there are a lot of different paths people can take to get out of debt.
So when we think about debt, either relationally
Prayer,
or
by the way.
Prayer, yes. We're about to get to that.
I didn't say that, yeah.
So when we think about debt, either monetarily or relationally, what I believe Matt is saying is it doesn't have to be a tone of shame.
Mm-mm.
It's actually an invitation. It's an invitation to invite God into your situation and live a life with less weight and more peace, more clarity, more availability to follow him and answer the call when he calls or the opportunities come. I think when we get into debt, we automatically, it's the dirty word. So you feel dirty. You've gotten into debt. You've messed up. It's all just one big tornado of a mess.
Mm-hmm.
But if we look at it, if we reframe it as an invitation to invite God in, if we've been messing it up, like what can it hurt to invite God in and see what he can do and how he can move? And I agree 100%. You are going to find out about the people in your life, good and bad. Some people will stay, some people will go, some people will help, some people will not. But God aligns those people when we align our hearts with him and his will and his purpose. And so I really believe through prayer, through surrender, through consistency, through honesty, relationships. I mean, I could go on, that God can take whatever mess you're sitting in and turn it around. It's going to take time.
Yeah.
You can't just snap your fingers. But if you're willing to do the work, that's what faith is. Faith is an action word. If you have faith in Christ, step forward with him in that, then he always shows up to do his part every single time.
Mm-hmm.
Every single time. And so I had some practical applications, probably not as good as yours, but that's okay. Actually, it's in line with yours.
Yeah.
It's not even extra credit. It's just some think about thoughts. So we'll call them the next steps. I believe from this conversation today, you have to face your numbers with honesty. You have to have a real conversation. It's not shameful. It is, what am I dealing with?
Yeah, think of it as a mile marker.
Yeah, today we start here.
That's right. I've got 800 and whatever it is miles across the state of Texas, and I'm at mile marker 100. I've got 700 to go. It is what it is.
I got a long way. Texas is a big old state.
Yeah.
I got a long way to go.
Yeah.
Pray for alignment, not just a plan. You cannot rub the genie in the bottle and be like, dear Lord, get me out of this.
Mm-hmm.
First off, we have to ask God, what is it you want me to do with my money? How do I handle this debt? How do I go about doing this in what's in your will? You have to be in alignment with God. And once you're in alignment with God, the plan just happens. It comes together. The people come, the opportunities come, the thoughts come. The Holy Spirit does not play around.
Mm-mm.
The Holy Spirit is plugged into that LinkedIn account, and he knows how to move the pieces and put them where they need to be.
It was there all along, by the way.
Always. Mm-hmm. Always. I would say in your prayer to just say, show me where you want to lead me in this. Shape my desires, shape my decisions. Let my will align with your will. It's just simple. It just quick and easy. Doesn't have to be a long, drawn out thing. And then I would say in the next 2 weeks, thinking about all this, choose one small faithful step.
So can I jump in on that?
Go. Yes.
So I like the idea of reminding everybody that our triple bottom lines can change over time. So someone in this particular scenario might say their triple bottom line for the calendar year of, it's 2026 right now. So a calendar year of 2026, my triple bottom line is to be X percentage more out of debt.
Yeah.
And so you have the things that you value most.
Yep. And
then there's the outflows. And then you can quantify that.
Yeah.
And then what I would encourage everybody to do is do what you just said. And then there's the qualitative side. Watch what happens.
Yep.
Pay attention to this.
Yep.
And you will see the numbers improve as you make action steps toward that.
Absolutely.
And you will then also feel the positive effects of that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And people are like, I don't really, it's so overwhelming. Yes, it is. But it could be something as simple as just eliminating one little spending habit. This is where I think having a budget is so important. You have to know the numbers. You have to look at paper. You have to look in your checking account. Like we said in the last episode, track your money for 3 days. It says a lot about your spending habits. Call a lender. A lot of times people will help adjust rates when you tell them, hey, I'm in a financial struggle and I want to pay this bill. I don't want to have another debt going against me. They will work with you. You just have to call and ask. Mm-hmm. Consolidation. Sometimes I told you in my 20s, I consolidated bills a lot, but it's how I got out. Mm-hmm. There are options. There are options through prayer, through guidance. God will help you through that. Maybe your debts, you need to go ask for forgiveness. Maybe you need to give forgiveness. All of our debts are different. They're not all monetarily.
That's right.
So choose one step, just one, and work on it the next couple of weeks. And then, as we've said this whole time, super important, you got to bring somebody in with you. You got to have an accountability partner. Mm-hmm. Debt grows in darkness. Jesus says that there's freedom in the light. Share your goal with somebody you trust. Invite them in. Let them help you. Maybe you're not good with budgeting. Maybe you know somebody that is. Just be honest and say, hey, just give me your suggestions. What do you see here? What pattern do you see? It's a lot easier for me to look on the outside because I have no emotional attachment to what you are attached to, for me to say, do you notice this right here? What do you think about that right there? Invite somebody in. Let them encourage you. Let them build you up.
I love the idea of sharing agendas. So say you have somebody that you trust and you want to share with them, hey, here's my agenda in this. I need help. And here's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Be forthright with that.
Yeah.
And allow them to speak and share, hey, I can't help or I can help.
Yeah. And you'd be amazed how many people have a story to share with you.
That's right.
Always.
And again, I would just encourage everybody to remember that not only what you just said, but you just don't know what they have just heard in prayer that morning.
Yep.
Amen. Or maybe they've been struggling with some type of, hey, God, show me this or show me that. And then all of a sudden, it happens.
The light.
It just happens.
Illuminates.
Yes. And it may not be. Please don't take this the wrong way, everybody who's still with us in episode. I'm not saying that you might get a check in the mailbox that eliminates all the debt. I'm not saying that.
I never have.
It can happen. But what I am saying is, I don't know, what if all of a sudden you have a new BFF? That's something that's immeasurable.
Yeah.
What if it's somebody who does know more or has more experience, more acumen with these things? That we are in this thing together, and the more we lean upon each other and get rid of our dead instruments of pride and arrogance and the lack of humility, the better off we're all going to be.
Yeah. And then last, I would say the biggest thing here is to celebrate progress, not perfection. You are never going to be perfect. You may fall off and have a moment where you go back and you got to get back on again. But every time you make a payment, whether that's, again, money or repairing something, you are taking a step towards freedom.
That's right.
Every wise choice is a victory. Every act of discipline is worship. I mean, when God steps into this with you, like you said, maybe coming out of debt doesn't necessarily mean you have more money in your bank account, but what if you have more meaningful relationships? What if God uses you to help the next person behind you?
That's right.
What if he gives you your own testimony? I mean, with God, the possibilities are endless.
And I remind the families too, your children are going to watch this. Your children are going to see this.
Yes, they are.
It's the caught and taught. I firmly believe, because I experienced this, they're going to learn the things that you taught them, and they're going to learn the things that they caught while they were being raised by you.
Yep.
And both of these can be extremely beneficial to their lives.
Let them be a part of the journey, man.
They're far more resilient than we give them credit for.
Yep. All right, guess what? We survived debt.
Man.
I hope they did.
Anybody still out there? Mic check.
Yeah, hello,
check.
are you there? Hey, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. I know this conversation has been great for me. Matt, I just love hearing your thoughts and sharing your heart once again. I know debt can be a hard topic. Nobody likes to talk about it, but I think you talked about it well. So thank you so
Thanks
much.
for having me.
All right, guys, as always, we can keep the conversation going. Check us out on our social media pages. If you have questions, comments, we would love to hear it. You can also leave comments on our YouTube channel. We do answer them, I promise. And besides that, hey, like, subscribe, share, and do not forget to come back for next week's episode with myself and Matt Miller.
Triple bottom line.
Here we go. All right, guys, have a great week. See you later.